Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I realize I am the last speaker, so you must be very happy to see me, and I'll stay as short as possible so that you can have a day off. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me to this conference involving Catholic businessmen. And I must thank you for making me feel very at home here. I must tell you that yesterday, when I came for a tea briefing with speakers at this conference, I was looking for the room, and I read somewhere the vacation of business leaders. Now, I come from the Philippines. We take our vacation very seriously, so I felt immediately at home. Well, my topic is good governance and CSR for business competitiveness. These are three big topics. We can spend an hour each on each of the three, but obviously we do not have time for that. So the only thing I'll be able to do is to somehow show the interconnection between these three: good governance, corporate social responsibility, and business competitiveness. Let me start by simply saying something which may be unorthodox to many of you. But from where I come from, given the background that I have, profit is a duty. It is a responsibility on the part of business. It is the first thing that you need to do in order to be sustainable. So that's why I start by simply saying that business competitiveness is essential for the sustainability of business. So those of you who might be thinking profit is not very good, it is very dirty, it is less than ideal, the fact is that from the business community, if you do not make profits, you cannot be sustainable. So profits and profitability are an important, essential discipline for those of us in business. And therefore I say that business competitiveness, which goes together with profit, is the outcome behind good governance and corporate social responsibility. That's where everything in business must start. So I say business competitiveness is a must-attain objective and goal for long-term sustainability. We can talk all you want about all types of sustainability, but unless you, in fact, make yourself competitive in the business sense, you cannot go very far, you cannot last for very long, you cannot survive. So it is an essential component of business. But what is behind business competitiveness? And I say that behind business competitiveness is what we were talking about earlier today. Behind it is the spirit of enterprise. This is something that we must cultivate. And what is that spirit of enterprise? It fills gaps, it irons kinks, it removes bottlenecks, and in fact that is what people in business are supposed to do. That is what entrepreneurship is. The old Schumpeterian scheme of entrepreneurship is precisely this: to fill in the gaps, to iron the kinks, and to remove the bottlenecks. It breaks down silos, and it promotes teamwork. First within the enterprise, and then outside the enterprise as well. And it promotes interconnection within the enterprise. And that's why one can understand why the spirit of enterprise, doing all of these things, leads into business competitiveness. Now, if we create teams, we break down silos, we iron kinks, we fill in gaps, we interconnect, we bring people together, we get people to work together. They have to work together around common causes, towards common causes. First within enterprise, of course. And what are these common causes that everyone in the enterprise must work towards? And there are very many of them, but we can consider only 5. The common cause of getting people together, equipping them, motivating them, getting them to be efficient, productive, and efficient. That's the very first common cause in any business enterprise. The second, the moment you equip people and motivate people, you got to get them into the core processes of the business so that that core process becomes efficient and effective and productive and therefore competitiveness. This is where excellence comes in. So in business, when you talk about competitiveness, one of the common causes that everybody must work towards is precisely this: the efficiency and effectiveness of the core process. One of the assignments that I got when I entered into government was precisely this. I had to rehabilitate the Development Bank of the Philippines, big, huge state institution, which in effect was bankrupt. And what did we do? One of the first things I found out is that this bank, in order to be able to take in deposits, took 12 minutes to process a savings account and take the money. He said, this is unacceptable. You've got to do something about the core process. Bring it down from 12 to 2 minutes, eventually to 30 seconds. That requires computerization. It requires many things. But that is one common cause that you have to focus on in business. Now, core process leads into service quality towards the customer. That is what competitiveness is. You've got to be there in order to serve. Not only the depositors, but also the people who borrow money from us. And all of the other stakeholders that we have to deal with. So, service to the customer, service to the constituency, service to the stakeholders. Now, precisely because of all of these, people motivated and equipped, core processes that are efficient and effective, and service to the customers and constituencies, what do you get? Financial returns. In business, we always say, financial bottom line. It's not the most important thing, but you get to the bottom line by starting very much from the very top, from the top line. And therefore, you get your financial results. But the story does not end there. Business cannot be thinking mainly of itself. And that's why we talk about a net positive value that business must contribute towards the community, towards society, towards the greater and wider polity. So these are the 5 areas for common causes where teams within the business enterprise will have to work together in teamwork, in close solidarity with one another. So His Eminence, Cardinal Turkson, was talking earlier about solidarity. Solidarity within the business enterprise means this in actual practice. You have various teams, you break down silos, you get the different units and organizations to work together so that people are made efficient, productive, and properly taken care of. Core processes are made efficient, productive, and properly taken care of to be able to service the customers and stakeholders with quality care, with quality service. Finally, you get the financial returns, and then in the process, you're able to add net positive value to society. These are the formulas for business competitiveness. Coming out precisely of the spirit of enterprise. You see how important, therefore, entrepreneurship is. How important the spirit of enterprise is. Now, the question to ask is, where does that come from? And where does it lead? Spirit of enterprise is teamwork, working together, solidarity for certain common causes. But let's find out where it comes from. And this is where I think our faith comes in. The source of the spirit of enterprise is the moral force that drives people forward. This is where ethical principles come in. This is where faith makes a lot of difference. And this is where being a Catholic without calling yourself a Catholic can make substantive sense. Because you see, being a Catholic means being very good at people, being very good at this, being very good at customers, being very good with financial returns, and being very good in net value. That's the practical application of the faith. But the faith comes from within, driving the spirit of enterprise to be able to produce all of those results that come out of teamwork. You see, you don't have to preach. You don't even have to label yourself as a Catholic. Just be one and act one, and act as one, and live as one. And you're doing very well. Following your vocation in business. So ethics drives the spirit of enterprise. But what we're hearing from His Eminence this morning is that business, does it end with itself? Obviously not. So of course, ethics, the faith, enlivens and sustains the spirit of enterprise. And therefore, we say it makes businesses competitive. It makes businesses sustainable. But the spirit of enterprise is not only about sustainability, because business is never for itself alone. It always has to think of something bigger and broader than it is. And that's why the destination of the spirit of enterprise is precisely the benefit to society. The business, the benefit to the rest of the economy, the benefit to the rest of polity. And what is that? It is social responsibility. So you see, social responsibility is not something different and distinct from competitiveness in itself. It has got to be embedded in the whole process of doing your business, being competitive, being efficient, and therefore trying to be sustainable. Therefore, what I have done was to bring in the connection between competitiveness and social responsibility, two of the three big topics in this lecture, simply because they are very much in tune with one another and in line with one another. So there you are. Spirit of enterprise, which is behind competitiveness. Where does it come from? Ethics. Where does it lead to? Corporate social responsibility. And these three, ethics, spirit of enterprise, and corporate social responsibility, is what you call as shared value. And shared value is something that is absolutely important at the level of individuals, at the level of teams, at the level of units of any business enterprise. You've got to share value. The value that is behind the spirit of enterprise. The value that is behind ethics. The value that is behind corporate social responsibility. That's why my kabayan, my fellow citizen, earlier was talking about, in fact, a value-driven business enterprise. Becoming competitive in a very competitive environment. That is shared value. Now, shared value is one component of corporate governance, of good governance. It interconnects, therefore, business competitiveness and CSR. But where does good governance come in? Because shared value does not stop by itself. It leads into other things which are the other dimensions of good governance. Now, it starts with shared value. That is where good governance starts. But does it end there? No. More than sharing of values, good governance leads to two other demands. And what are these two other demands? The first one is shared responsibility. It's not enough to just say, we share values. Those values have got to be expressed in day-to-day work, leading towards a common destination. And therefore, it means shared responsibility in attaining certain targets. And shared responsibility, in fact, means having to align everybody around those common causes. Alignment. Starting with individuals. Individuals aligned with everybody else to the unit where they belong, where they work. And the unit aligned with the bigger departments and divisions within the enterprise. And all the departments and divisions within the enterprise aligned with the entire enterprise itself. And this is, in effect, what I would like to say as my second message. My first message is profit is a must. It is an essential ingredient of business. And when you begin talking about alignment, what are you talking about? Alignment is sharing of responsibility. And that's why managements have to bring everybody together into close harmony and getting everybody aligned in order to promote the common goals and objectives of the enterprise. With what must they align? There you are. A common vision. There has to be a shared vision. This is what we would like to become as an enterprise. This is what we would like to accomplish together. 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, what is this enterprise going to be? What is our dream for it? What is our dream about our being able to make a difference in the world? What is our dream about being able to make money, but at the same time create net positive value for society and the community? You might want to know that the shared vision of Disney is simply to make people happy. That's what they really want to do. That's their mission. And within that mission, they say, well, 5 years from now, this is what we shall be as a corporation. And because you have a common vision, then what is it that each one of us will have to do in order to contribute to the realization of that vision? The moment that vision is agreed, it has to be shared. It has to be cascaded. And therefore, responsibility gets to be distributed and shared. So therefore, you come out with shared responsibility precisely because of the shared vision. Consistent with the mission and the values of the enterprise. And of course, that vision must be shared with everyone in the corporation. There's generally an office for strategy management within the enterprise, and this is very important. And that is that vision will have to be shared with the stakeholders of the enterprise. And there are many stakeholders. Not only the customers, they should know. Not only the investors, they should know. Not only the regulators, they should know. The creditors should know where you're going. The suppliers should know where you're going. The business community, The wider community must know what you are trying to become to make a vital, positive difference within society. And therefore, it becomes an enterprise to which everybody gives support. A crisis comes. Will your stakeholders support you? A crisis comes. Will your depositors stay with you? A crisis comes. Will your borrowers still continue to pay the loans that they owe you? That's stakeholder relations. Getting everybody involved in the enterprise. So crucial. Now, who is responsible for the shared vision? This is where the board of directors comes in corporate governance. Who is responsible for the shared vision in any political establishment? Philippines, for example, we have had different visions which were never shared. But finally now, we have a shared vision of what we would like to be. And that's why we're no longer the sick man of Asia. We're beginning to move because of the shared vision. And who is responsible for shared responsibility? This is where management comes in. This is where the politicians come in. The group 3 of Dr. Virachai. Very serious responsibility to bring unity among all of the different parties, all of the different factions, all of the different divisions and silos within the enterprise. That's the task of management, shared responsibility, to pursue the common vision that has been established for the enterprise. And what about shared value? This is where everybody comes in. Every employee, every unit, every department, every division must share the same value. So we end up with the 3 demands of good governance. You have shared value. You have shared responsibility. You have shared vision. Vision is a task of the top leadership, of the board of directors in any corporation, of any enterprise. Shared responsibility is the task of management. Shared value is a task of every officer and employee in the enterprise, all working together for that vision of what the enterprise must be. And by the way, those are the 3 major elements of good governance. So now we have connected, through the spirit of enterprise, business competitiveness and corporate social responsibility. And we put this within the context of good governance. So my 2 concluding notes are very simple. Business competitiveness is the outcome of good governance and corporate social responsibility. And business competitiveness is secured by shared value, with corporate social responsibility as one of its components. And practicing shared value, together with shared responsibility and shared vision, is practicing good governance. So I hope, ladies and gentlemen, I have put together the 3 big topics that have been assigned to me. Good governance, business competitiveness, and corporate social responsibility. Let me add by simply saying that the question that was asked by Dr. Virachai, we come from very different environments. I understand from Dr. Virachai that here in Thailand, Catholics are not even 1/2 of 1% of the entire population. In our case, our problem is that we have too many Catholics. So many that we take it for granted. So I think your task is to get Catholics to act as they must, wherever they are. By the way, it's the same task we have. Without ourselves having to proclaim ourselves as Catholics, you just become a good businessman, you just become a good bank teller, you just become a good officer, following all of these demands of good governance, business competitiveness, and CSR. You know, one saint once said, you can become a person with a mission without calling yourself a missionary. You can become a very good Catholic without having to advertise your being a Catholic. And this is what we're trying to do in the Philippines. Live our Catholic values, live our Catholic principles in business, in every sector of society, without having to advertise. In our case, we don't have to, because the great majority of our people are Catholics. But even in that environment, you've got to be able to say, hey guys, this is what our faith demands. And our faith demands, at least in business, towards business competitiveness, towards corporate social responsibility, and therefore towards good governance. A final statement I would like to make. This is true of business. Shouldn't it be true of government as well? This is the challenge. You talk about corruption and all of these things. The answer lies here. Good governance, the spirit of enterprise and competitiveness, as well as corporate social responsibility with every government official. And you might want to know that without calling ourselves as Catholics, as missionaries, we're trying to do this in a very corrupt country that was the Philippines, by introducing good governance practices into the public sector. And by the way, there's a third area beyond business and the public sector where good governance is called for. And that is the whole big sector which we call as civil society. So the moment you cover business, government, and civil society, you have the three pillars of any community, of any polity, of any community, properly taken care of. And as we heard earlier today, these three big pillars of business, government, and civil society must take care of the two major drivers of values in any community. First, the school, and second, the family. And the moment you do that, you can get right down to the last individual. Because in the end, the call to Christian perfection is addressed in the final analysis to every individual. And you can get to those individuals precisely through families and through schools. So our scheme is start with business, extend to government, extend to civil society. Finally, you get to families and schools, you're able to get down to individuals. And our aim is to reach 100 million Filipinos who are individuals that need to live the message of answering the call, not only to business vocation, but to personal perfection as well. And if we reach there, we can take a very good vacation. Thank you very much.